Hello and welcome to Sweet Home, California. So the truckers' convoy, called the People's Convoy, is still very much alive and active. And I don't know if you heard about it on Legacy Media, but they actually had some meetings with both senators and congressmen yesterday. Did anybody see that on their local news, on the national news? Nope, I didn't either. And when I searched for it on YouTube, I had a hard time finding video of it as well, even though they were live streaming them. So it's the Senate one that I found more difficult to find. So I am going to go ahead and rebroadcast that here. It is available elsewhere, but I just don't think it's getting the views that it really needs to. And so without further ado, I will have this going on right here. Let me go ahead and add that. There we go, and we will hit play. Let me know if you have any problems hearing this. I'm still getting used to this software, but anyhow, here we go.
I guess let's keep this pretty informal discussion. We'll have a little bit, Ted and I probably do some statements when we can get the main press group in here. But I'm here to listen. Want to hear exactly, what I've read your internet page, that type of thing, so I understand the basic cause you're fighting for here. It's freedom. I appreciate that, but I'm here to listen. Ted, you.
Yeah, look, I want to echo that. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you guys and hear what you have to say. I think what you're doing is important. You are standing up and speaking out, not just for truckers across the country, but for Americans of all stripes, of all professions in life. I know that the government would try to dictate the healthcare decisions you make in your life and your family. It's fundamentally wrong. And, I think what started in Canada with Canadian truckers was powerful. It was inspirational. And it actually spoke volumes when government leaders tried to stomp it down. They were so scared of ordinary citizens standing up and speaking out. And what y'all are doing is very much the same. It is important. Ron and I in the Senate have been leading the fight against these mandates. These mandates are wrong. It ought to be your decision whether or not you get vaccinated. If you decide to get vaccinated, great, that's your choice. If you decide not to, great, that's your choice. But it's not the job of some petty government tyrant to force that decision on you and to say you're going to lose your livelihood if you don't comply. And so I'll just echo what Ron said, which is I want to hear from you guys in terms of how it's impacting you and what led you all to be part of this convoy and where you hope to go from here.
So I'd suggest, you do it in the order you want to speak in, but introduce yourselves, kind of what your background is, and really what your objectives are. I could probably start with you, Brian.
I'll let Chris.
I'll do an introduction and set the stage. Senators, thank you for your time. It's very important after the truckers made a trip across the country and what they saw that you're taking the time to meet with us. So we want to thank you for your service to this country and for taking this meeting. This was an incredibly peaceful movement. It took off without incident and was a merger of several convoys into what is the People's Convoy. This convoy is called the People's Convoy because it's for the people. But what's important to understand to set the stage for this discussion is why we're here.
Just a comment there. I was able to see them off from Adelanto, California. And from day one, they have started every day and ended every day with prayer and with talking about safety and making sure that everything is legal and lawful. And it's just been a wonderful movement. So I'm really glad that they're calling it the People's Convoy because it really is by, for, and about the people.
And we are here because,
oh, please hit that like button and share this. We need to get more people know about this meeting.
Emergency powers were never meant to be used in the way in which they were used. It was never contemplated that something that would be used for a few days for a hurricane or an earthquake would be weaponized against the American people. It has been weaponized in such a manner that people that were not designed to ever have that kind of power, like state, local officials, and the federal government, could trample the Constitution and make courts unable to enforce constitutional rights. And that's a big part of what we're here. Governors were using emergency powers like Governor Newsom to award no-bid contracts to his cronies and divert their tax revenues to friends. They did it to meddle in elections by changing the ballots and mail-in ballots and elections. They did it to force people to wear masks maybe a year or more after the science disproved its efficacy. They did that to affect people's ability to worship in this country. Liquor stores open, so you can get wasted, but you can't worship. This was the most massive transfer of wealth from the little guy to big multinational corporations by shutting down small businesses, the heart of American enterprise, in favor of the Amazons of the world and the Best Buys and the Walmarts. Just a travesty. But what's even worse is the deaths from the vaccines and the deaths of people's livelihood, because that's death too. The heart of America is the working man and woman, and this is what the People's Movement is about. It represents the heart of America. And they lost their jobs because they weren't getting they didn't want to get vaccinated, or they had pre-existing medical conditions, or guess what? Their doctor just plain old recommended that they shouldn't. And because of that, they shouldn't. They had, like you said, government officials forcing medical decisions above and beyond a doctor's recommendation, which is awful. We turned our back on the Nuremberg Code as if it didn't matter. I was raised Jewish and my mom's Jewish, and we don't forget what the Nuremberg Code is about. We need to consider making that law. And the courts were handcuffed. Ultimately, they were handcuffed because you go to court to enforce your constitutional rights. And the court said their hands are tied because there's emergency powers. Would you believe that the courts can't enforce the Americans' constitutional rights for 2 years? It's unfathomable. So I suppose that leads us to what we want and why we're here. I'm just setting the stage for the discussion so it's easier. This isn't just about ending the mandates. The ending the mandates at the beginning. Obviously, the COVID was magically declared over, like a magic unicorn. And suddenly they're rolling everything. Miraculously gone.
Turns out.
Right. Just in time, right?
It's amazing how sensitive, quote, the science is to political polls.
Yeah, the political science.
You see the chart behind me of the number of cases. Had all the mandates worked, it would have ended here, right?
Right.
But the opposite didn't work. I hope the powers to be, as they call them, the COVID cartel, will finally admit that the response to COVID, after 160,000 deaths, the human total, the economic devastation, what we've done to our children, what we've done to workers, again, the little guy.
Yeah.
I hope they will, at some point in time, admit that their response was a miserable failure. Okay.
We hope so. I got to get to the charters here in a second. I just wanted to set the stage for us. It's so important. But look, we're here for accountability, right? When the dust settles, we've got to go back and do an after-action review and figure out how on earth we got here. How did the emergency powers get abused, and how do we stop that from ever happening again? Americans feel like they've been living in a third world country. The immigrants who built this country themselves feel like they moved clear across the world to escape dictators and tyrants, and ended up feeling like it's right here on our doorstep. And they saw Trudeau use emergency powers himself, weaponized against his people, to take peaceful protesters and call them domestic terrorists and freeze their bank accounts. It shouldn't be lost on all of us that Americans are concerned that can happen here. We were hoping that we can get support for a Senate floor announcement of what you heard today and the stories from the truckers and how it reaches you, because it's important for the American people to hear it. We're hoping that you might consider a sense of the Senate resolution with a roll call vote so that we can see where all participants in our elected government officials sit on the issues of civil liberties and freedom. We want to consider how these emergency power laws can be amended at all levels to avoid the extended use that disrupts the power structure of our constitutional republic. And finally, we'd like to consider whether there ought to be expedited constitutional processes here on the Subcommittee of Constitution and the Judiciary Committee, whether or not there could be an expedited constitutional process, because there seem to be cases that are stuck for years. And Americans are losing faith that there's a process for the defense of the Constitution. So I'm here as the chairman of the American Foundation for Civil Liberties and Freedom. We are joined with the Unity Project and Drs. Cole, Alexander, and many, and the Defeat the Mandates movement. We're here to support, we were supporting the doctors for years that first risked their livelihoods to come out and speak up. And many of them lost their livelihoods. They were there. But now we're here with the heart of America, the People's Convoy. They represent the men and women of this country here, and you would not believe the stories these guys that they've experienced. I can't wait for you to hear it. And right now, here is the leader of the People's Convoy. He's no stranger to these halls. He's been lobbying for truckers in the trucking industry for years and stepping up. So just wanted to make it clear that he's been here before, and he's standing up for us now. I'd like them to share their stories with you, and we're so honored to be here. Thank you very much.
I'm not gonna go into my whole story necessarily. I'll just tell you a little bit about the People's Convoy.
Where are you from?
Originally from Lidditz, Pennsylvania, and now reside in Northwest Ohio. I'm not the leader, as many try to put me there, but I'm a co-organizer. This is really the People's Convoy. There's at least 100 people that I work closely with in organizing and putting this together. Multiple organizations like his, volunteers on the ground right now working really hard to keep our drivers safe, to keeping the grounds cleaned up, even as little as cigarette butts picked up, and all the organizers that have worked for weeks on end to try to put something together, as inspired by our Canadian brothers and sisters up north that stood up. As we rolled across the country from Adelanto, California to here to Hagerstown, where we're currently residing, which, by the way, you should know that we currently have a convoy moving in the Beltway right now. Just put that out there.
What is the size of the convoy?
Trucks and RVs, we're right around 1,000 strong right now. And more coming.
More came in last night. We're actually, so in Oklahoma, the only law enforcement agency that really put out a count for us. Wow.
He's calling.
Oklahoma State Police put out that we were 7,000 vehicles and stretched 30 miles long coming across their interstate. When we convoy, we grow and we shrink, and we grow and we shrink, because all across the country, people want to participate in it.
So I take it that means there are a bunch of vehicles that are not trucks then.
Yes, absolutely, and that's the other thing I wanted to specify, is that this isn't just a truck convoy, this is truly the People's Convoy. We have folks here that are in RVs, motorhomes, motorcycles, rode all the way from California here on motorcycles. Join us. We got folks in cars. They're sleeping in their car every night. They're sleeping in tents outside of their car, outside of the motorhome. I've seen a guy last night sleeping on his motorcycle with a tarp up over him because of the rain. Truly the People's Convoy. It's not a truckers' convoy. And even though the truckers might have been the one to lead the charge, step up initially, we're not even doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for our families. We're doing it for our communities. We're doing it for the people of the United States. And truthfully, we're doing it for people around the world. Not only is this a violation of our constitutional rights, but this is a violation of your God-given rights. You should never be mandated to put such a thing in your body. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not the one to tell you whether it's good or not. That's what we're there for.
Comment on there. Is the volume okay?
As a person that served in the Army, and as a person that cares deeply about my country, and I care about my community and my family and my fellow drivers, my fellow Americans, that this is wrong, and I can see that without having to worry about the signs. The People's Convoy has come together and created a community. We are a massive community, and I would encourage any senator, congressman or woman, any governor, mayor, city council members, school board members, to come out and truly see what this community is. As we came across the country, we've had millions of people. I thought thousands. But when you include all the different convoys that have converged into one, it equals to be millions of people across the country that lined the highways and stood on overpasses and freeways We've had attorney generals across the country wanting to meet us on these bridge rallies that they had. We didn't plan that. That wasn't part of our planning. That's the community doing it themselves, knowing that we're coming through and showing that support. I don't think I've ever in my lifetime, and according to my mother, even in her lifetime, has she ever seen such a movement like this coming across the country. This isn't a right issue or a left issue. This is an American issue. It's time that we put the divide to the side. Everybody can go back and hate each other if that's what they want to do when we get on the other side of this. But it's time that we take a step back and think. Use our brains, use our hearts. Don't worry about your politics or your lobbyists or your special interest groups. Just care about the people. Something I've said in moving across this country was that it's time to remind the United States government and truly governments around the world that they work for us. Amen. That's all I'm going to leave it at because it's not my story to tell. It's the people of the Convoy story to tell.
I will say, in Wisconsin, I'm sensing that political realignment. People showing up, fighting for freedom. Democrat, Republican, doesn't make any difference. They're concerned about what's happened to their children, what's happened to their lives, what's happened to their freedom. And I agree with that. I think this is a unique moment. That maybe we can accomplish that goal that President Biden stated was his number one goal, to unify and heal this nation. He's done the exact opposite. Maybe this movement can work toward that goal, which is a worthy goal.
I would like to ask a question.
Sure.
The Senate passed, and I know he's got the list of who voted what, but they passed the end of the state of emergency by one vote. There were several that didn't bother to vote. To me, that's just as bad as voting no on this, regardless of party. It's just as bad as voting no. It goes to the House. The president already came out and said he would veto it. It went to his desk. Is there some way of appealing to House members to, one, let it hit the floor, two, to put political differences to the side for this, to be bipartisan? He touched on all the legal stuff that I'm just not your guy for. I'm not. I'm just a voice in America, a blue-collar worker as you get.
Look, the challenge is this is where you guys, your voice is so important. Because you've got to get some people willing to cross party lines and do the right thing. As you noted, we had to vote to end the state of emergency. That was the right thing to do. The week before, we had two different votes. We had a vote on an amendment that Mike Lee and I introduced to end all of the Biden vaccine mandates. So to end the mandate for active duty military, to end the mandate for federal employees, to end the mandate for federal contractors, and to end the mandate, the OSHA mandate that the Supreme Court struck down for private employers. And we voted on that. And then we had a separate vote on an amendment I introduced to cut off all federal funds to any governmental entity that mandated vaccines for kids. The only thing I can think of worse than the government trying to force you to make healthcare decisions is the government trying to force your kids to make healthcare decisions without the parents making a decision. I think that's fundamentally wrong. If you got a 5-year-old, it's no politician's business whether or not they choose to get this COVID vaccine. On both of those amendments, number one, every single Democrat in the Senate voted no. All of them. Number two, as you noted, we would have won, except Republicans weren't there. 4 Republicans were missing, and I have no idea why.
It's just as bad as voting no.
I was glad I didn't have a camera in my face at that moment because I would have said some things my mother wouldn't have approved of. But I thought it was ridiculous that we didn't show up and stand up and do the right thing. In terms of the House, look, to move anything to the floor of the House takes Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker. What you've got to have is you've got to have some Democrats in the House willing to break ranks. If it's a straight party line vote, then Pelosi and the Democrats will just refuse to vote on it. So there have got to be some Democrats in the House, and there are a bunch of Democrats in districts across the country, particularly districts that Trump cares, who are scared out of their minds and know they're getting ready to lose the House, who, if they had any sense, would say we ought to vote on this. Now, whether they do or not, whether they have the courage to stand up to Pelosi, that's really where you all come in, because it's the only thing that's going to infuse courage is if they realize they're losing their jobs, that they don't discover some courage. Because they're not gonna get it magically just waking up one morning. It's gonna take, they've gotta be more scared of the voters than they are of Nancy Pelosi. Right now, they're listening to party bosses. Until that changes, the House is not gonna vote on this.
Let me answer it this way. What crisis that America's faced do we not come together as people? Whether it's a national crisis like 9/11, whether it's a hurricane in Florida where, truckers haul down construction material, Americans show up to help rebuild, or tornadoes in the Midwest, or fires in the West. I mean, we always come together in this tragedy, don't we? But not during the pandemic.
No.
The pandemic was politicized almost from the start again. We ignored, we sabotaged early treatment. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives, didn't have to lose their lives because we just sabotaged early treatment because I guess the President of the United States at the time advocated for it. So there's something else going on here. And as Ted just described, COVID has become completely partisan in the political realm. But again, what gives me hope is what you're doing, what I'm sensing in Wisconsin, quite honestly, what I'm sensing with our January 24th event, the COVID-19, a second opinion that both Pierre and Paul attended. There needs to be an awakening. There has to be an awakening. But unfortunately, right now it's politicized, but it's movements like yours. It's ordinary Americans that need to have their eyes open and understand there's something going on here.
The awakening is happening right now.
Yeah.
The awakening is circling the beltway as we're talking to you right now. That convoy is rolling too wide. It's probably 10 miles long today. The awakening's here.
Well,
What I wanted to say, Senator Cruz and Senator Johnson, thank you very much for allowing us, leadership of Brian. Here's the key issue, because you talked, Senator Johnson, about Americans unifying. At the beginning of this, we know right now that Omicron is at the lowest risk variant. It presents an off-ramp to the government, and it's a strategy. We know that the vaccine does not stop transmission. But here's the key. At the beginning of this, for 2 years now, it was the trucker who faced the initial Wuhan strain, the most virulent strain. When the government told everyone to lock down and to remote work, it was the trucker who kept the supply chains going and kept the country on its feet. It was the trucker who faced this virus for 2 years. Now with the lowest strain of variant, you are telling the trucker, with the exit strategy we have, you can apply your trade. It absolutely makes no sense. It's upside down.
and the grocery clerk, and the nurses,
The
doctors.
firefighters.
Yes.
I mean, we spent a year with politicians giving all these rhetoric about heroes, and they turn around and say, all right, let's fire the heroes. Like, make up your damn mind.
There
It's just, so Paul Alexander's put together really a compendium of over 140 studies that shows natural immunity works. Yeah, he was up in Canada with the truckers. You're being threatened with arrest.
Yes.
Dr. Corey testified a number of times for my committees on early treatment. Corticosteroids, you led the way a different path to treatment as opposed to ventilators, which aren't getting successful. So, I mean, these are also heroes of the pandemic.
I'm honored to sort of be part of people's Convoy and support them, because we need a voice. We're being ignored, right? And when you look at those emergency powers and the mandates, there's a lot of secondary ones that ripple through society. Like, I feel like, this extended emergency, when you look at the impacts on society, there's all these secondary, it seems like society's gone mad. If you look at my specialty, I'm a physician. We are restricted from practicing medicine the way we always have, making decisions based on our experience, our expertise, our reading of the literature. We're told what medicines to use. We're told what medicines not to use. And there's actually corruption around that.
Sure.
We're using ineffective medicines and not able to use the good ones. And then to talk about things, right? Like open and honest scientific debate. you have all these social media channels and the press, I mean, you can't discuss certain messages. So like, I mean, it's not just those mandates. I mean, we're really sick as a society here. And like, when you see the people standing up, and I wish you guys had come to Hagerstown, I mean, you gotta see the people showing up. I mean, the way they talk, I mean, you really need to come down there.
Yeah.
It's incredibly moving. I mean, people are really hurt, but they are coming together, and there is that unity, you know, and they're coming from all sides of the aisle. I mean, it's not about politics down there. It's about the really core things. It's about freedoms and about going back to normal life. I mean, he just extended the emergency powers. Now, where's the emergency?
Yeah.
I mean, this is absurd.
Let's hope it's over.
And you know, when it's not just as part of the Congress, a couple of doctors. I mean, we've written a declaration against these mandates, and against the lack of recognition of national unity was always absurd. I mean, it violates some of the central tenets of medicine, right? And we have over 20,000 physicians and scientists from around the world who've signed on to those declarations, calling out the illegitimacy and lack of logic about a lot of these mandates. And so, and I like what Brian said, he doesn't need the science to show the injustice of the mandates. But there's a lot of science to show that these mandates have absolutely no place, and they're hurting people.
You just finished the Great Barrington Declaration. I mean, that was October 2020. Laying out right there, there's a different path in terms of responding to this. I mean, what did Fauci and Collins do? They can have emails between themselves. We need to destroy these people for reputation. Somebody from Oxford, from Harvard, from Stanford, we need to destroy these people that are opposed to our solution, the only solution, okay, the only narrative. Let's hear from the other folks that tell us your story.
I came here from Poland in 1995, and I really remember how it was in the 80s. This is the place where solidarity started, and the whole movement in Europe did it peacefully. I came in Christmas Eve of 1995, and Christmas Day was my first day at home. And now I'm
Where did you come to? Where do you live now?
Now I live in Florida, but I came to Chicago. So now I drive trucks for 27 years, and now I feel it's like deja vu. I escaped from the country to get the freedom, and then now I'm in the country where we need to get the freedom back. Basically, this is the story.
No, we hear that time and time again, people who escape communism, all of a sudden they're kind of recognizing, they're very concerned about what's happening in this country. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Sure.
And my dad came from Cuba and was in prison for Cuba, so I understand very directly that freedom is precious and it can be taken away, and very quickly the next generation can discover they don't have what their parents or grandparents have. And I think we're at exactly an inflection point like that.
My name's Alan Kelly. I'm a 28-year section truck driver. Me and my wife on team.
No offense, but if you were 28, you can party if you're 28. You lived a heck of a life.
I felt like I was 28 coming back with the People's Convoy. I'll tell you that. It was like just so energizing. But anyway, I have a 1-year-old grandson and I have an 8-year-old grandson, and I'm here so that they have maybe more freedoms and a better life than I have, because I have had a great life and I've had lots of freedoms and I've had lots of experiences, and I want them to have the same thing. I have kids. My kids are old enough to have kids.
Right.
Some of their friends are school teachers and stuff like that. They've lost their jobs. We come from a small town in Pennsylvania, southwestern Pennsylvania, not far from here. It's just, I'm here for the mother that we were talking to on the way from Atlanta to Hagerstown that hasn't talked to her daughter in 6 months because she's not vaccinated and her kids won't talk to her. She's in tears. We've had a movement like no other, like no presidential candidate, like no senator, like no congressman, like no governor coming across this country. We've got millions and millions of people. There hasn't been a handful of bridges. I haven't seen somebody. They're coming out of the woods on their four-wheelers. And when you're driving under these overpasses and you look up at people's faces, and millions.
Yeah,
was tens of thousands and then turned to hundreds of thousands, and went into the millions. And I've never seen a presidential candidate or at any level have what we just had. And I think that speaks volumes.
They're crying.
Yeah.
You can see
We've
them
opened,
crying.
we've already won because we've opened their hearts. And once their hearts are open, they can't be closed. And it's just, I'm really upset that none of our congressmen and senators and stuff like that have come out to give us their time of day up to this point. We appreciate you guys so much for that. And I have the list. I know the 47 people who voted to keep the Emergency Powers Act. I know the ones that didn't vote, and I know the ones that did vote. And we're gonna hold them accountable, because honestly, they're not down here. They're at their homes, having their cocktail parties, and not listening to the people or working for the people that are paying. But they gave them that lavish lifestyle that they have. And we're gonna hold people accountable that don't listen to us. And that includes everybody that did vote for it. If they don't continue to fight for us, we were paying attention, we knew who's who. We need to take back our school boards, our town selectmen, city mayors. It all starts there, because it's all been infiltrated. It's all corrupt. We have real science. We have conflicting information from doctors right here versus the CDC. Okay, there's medicines that can help people. People have lost their families. They died. They weren't even allowed in to see them for their last minutes of life. Imagine if I couldn't imagine not seeing my wife or my mom or dad in their last minutes. I mean, I just couldn't imagine it. It's unconscionable what they've done to the American people. And we need to start, and the people are going to start, me especially. It's not a right issue, it's not a left issue, like I said. It's a we the people issue. And there's rhinos on both sides. And we're going to hold them accountable. So the ones that fight for us, for the right thing, and work for the people, we're going to stay. The ones that don't, we're going to try to get them to go. And this is a lot, and I do want to say if this is messed up again, you're fired. And I promise you it's going to happen. I mean, the American people, we're going to hold the people that work for us accountable.
This convoy has developed a very powerful voice across America through social media, even if the mainstream media doesn't want to cover it. Everyone knows this is happening. Everybody knows that it's moving across. And everybody is opening up their eyes, and they are not afraid to talk anymore. And they're not afraid to
There's
speak.
people that are scared to get out here and talk because of what the government has done. They've made people feel afraid. I'm very nervous. That's why I started out, you know. But they shouldn't be. This is America. We should not. Do we have a right to peacefully and law-abidingly assemble and
Of course.
Washington? Do we have that right?
And you guys have, absolutely, and you guys have discovered firsthand.
Is it illegal to have is it illegal to peacefully assemble and not following the laws?
Of course not.
Okay.
But y'all have seen firsthand how the corporate media is fundamentally corrupt.
Big tech, big pharma, I mean, it's all a problem.
You're exactly right, and we've seen, particularly concerning COVID mandates, we've seen a particularly nasty combination of government authoritarian. We saw this in Canada, with Canadian politicians reaching out to their buddies in big tech and getting GoFundMe to go steal $10 million from Canadian truckers. And we saw it here in the United States with Jen Psaki from the White House press briefing room demanding of Spotify they pull Joe Rogan down because he dared ask some questions on this. And that nexus of power of government authoritarians, big tech, and then the corporate media lie about it.
When you challenge the sitting president of the United States, it's a real problem.
Exactly right. But what is more powerful is the American people rising up and speaking out. So what y'all are doing is incredibly important.
Thank you for your time.
I'm seeing the same thing in Wisconsin, people coming up and with tears in their eyes. Those are awakened. And again, you gotta bust out from the media. Here's what we're up against. Talk about COVID, you can apply this just about any other issue. The body count now is over 960,000, over 6 million globally. The human total economic devastation, again, what we've done to our children. You think they'll ever admit they were wrong? First of all, they at this point, they can't afford to admit they're wrong, but here's the key point. it's the administration, the healthcare agencies, it's big pharma. Have you seen all the ads for big pharma on, then the corporate media, the legacy media, the mainstream media, whatever you want to call them, then the big tech, social media giants. They have the power to make it very difficult, not impossible, to prove them wrong. So the only way we overcome this vast cartel of power is with what you're doing.
Joe Biden said it was unexcusable whenever, under Trump's administration, there's a 250,000 people that passed from the virus. There's been far more than that under his watch, so where's his account?
Look at how he scapegoated the unvaxxed. I mean, they saw the vaccines were working as well as we all hope and pray they would. They're not safe. So right around that June, July time period, they knew this wasn't over. They had to blame somebody, so they decided to divide America even further. That's just been their strategy. They won't accept the consequences. They won't accept responsibility. They had to blame someone, so they scapegoated with the unvaxxed.
Senator Johnson, earlier you mentioned something I want to quickly mention before we wrap up, because time is precious. You mentioned that, well, obviously everybody knows they politicize this kind of stuff, right? But the one thing that was certain is that it was either politics or power. Now, here at Capitol Hill, you just assume the first thing is politics. And that would have been fine, because that's something you don't expect up here. But when it's power, that's a problem. But what you said is something else is at play here, but you didn't name it. And between the two, there's certain as a mathematical proof that it wasn't politics and it was power. Because if it were just politics, the moment you divide the American public by vaxxed and unvaxxed and identify the enemy as unvaxxed, well, you could just let them all not be vaxxed and then die of COVID, wouldn't you?
Well, don't forget,
It's only half as many people.
because there's a whole lot more to be made also.
Right?
I want you guys to hear from two more.
Yeah, the last question,
I want to say something about
this part.
Right.
Through the convoy, there's been people that have walked up to us and told us a story, whispered in our ears, told us all kinds of things that have gone on in their life and how things were affected. One man gave me an American flag that he carried in his rucksack all through all throughout his Afghanistan deployment. He believed that it kept him alive and safe. And he told me to put this in my pocket and bring it to DC. And I completed that mission. I brought it here for him. This young man here, 18 years old, only planned on being with us for one city, from Adelanto to our next stop. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
He has stuck with us this entire time. He flies out tonight. It's emotional when we see guys like him leave us, but we know that they're still supporting us. I did my mission. I want publicly, for the man that gave me this, to give it to this man, to carry with you for the rest of your life, for being a part of this people's convoy, and remember why you stood up.
Tell us your story. Why you joined the convoy? Why you stick with it?
I'm going to picture the show out really quick.
Yeah.
This year is me in middle school against them, March for Our Lives against the NRA. This wasn't me thinking freely. This was the school system. I'm from California. And you guys ever ride horses or anything? It's like, I feel like a horse being stuck in a stall being let out to the pasture traveling the country. Let me break that down for you. I've been in a horse stall in California, and my pen didn't get open to go out to the pasture until I left the borderline to Arizona. It's sickening, and I want to cry. I haven't cried since my dad's funeral about 6 years ago. Excuse me. Sorry.
You got it, buddy. We got you.
Yeah, we got it.
My dad served in these colors. This Constitution, I'm not going to throw like that now because I can't go to Los Angeles and do street photography without being kicked out because I'm not vaccinated. I didn't have prom. I graduated early. I didn't, homecoming games. I don't know what that feels like. My mom, she went to school boards and fought for us. I guess this is why I'm here. Yeah, I think this is why I'm able to stand up to corrupt politicians that's taking away, excuse my French, our freedoms. I grew up watching this place on TV, and I never thought I would be sitting here fighting for my own freedom. I have a beautiful niece. She turns 2 this year. And I just want to make sure when I have my dream ranch, she could come to me and I have the rights, the freedoms to protect her without having the government be involved and feeling like I shouldn't be able to defend myself. I can't get a gun until I'm 21 and I live alone in California. Gavin Newsom ain't doing nothing but to protect them corrupt criminals. Look at the $0 bill. Am I supposed to live in that where somebody can just break into my house and I can defend myself? It's not living. I have dreams about me protecting myself and I'm going to jail. Imagine going to prison for protecting yourself. I'm 18 years old. I literally had that dream. Another thing that's really big on me is how diverse this country is becoming. I've been counseled out by my own skin color shades. I've been counseled out by people who don't know me. They just see how to wear a dress and call me Uncle Tom, cool. They see it all over TV. It's publicized that it's like candy. I'm like candy. The media's got this all flipped. And being firsthand as an American patriot, somebody who has scars on himself from working in tractors, falling off horses, making sure somebody has a buffalo or some American Angus to eat on their table, go to college, I'm just normal. I'm an American. But they see this and they think it's all food white supremacist, racist, and I feel like because of my color, because of where I'm from, California, I'm bringing all these stereotypes. So there's no excuse. People need to hear the stories of the American people. It's not racist. I've been treated nothing but love. I've grown. My life has forever changed because of the Convoy. I would go back home feeling like a horse and locked up in this horse pen again, so I could be able to get my career going. I can't get that going without having to be forced to be vaccinated to go to school.
Well, let me say thank you for your courage speaking out, and your voice is powerful. And you're right that even in blue states like California, there are millions and millions of people that are frustrated, that want to be free. And in some states, particularly blue states, a lot of them are intimidated to be silent. But your voice, you're speaking for a lot of other people. You're speaking for a lot of other Californians. You're speaking for a lot of other African Americans. You're speaking for a lot of Americans. And that is powerful. I'll also say, by the way, I want to extend you an invitation to come to Texas. We'll protect your rights. You can keep bear arms in Texas, and you're already dressed for it. You said people don't like how you dress as a Texan. I'm like, I don't even understand what the hell they're saying. I think you look great. But so it's an open invitation to the great state of Texas, Matthew.
Thanks, sir.
Another gentleman that has worked with us from the very beginning. He had a remarkable story himself, and he's been right by our side from day one in this. He's seen the emotional roller coaster that this journey has been.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Senators, for having us today. My name is Ron Coleman. I'm from Greene. I own a small trucking company, or at least I will until next week, maybe. And who knows how far that goes. But my daughter said to me before I left, Dad, you can't afford to do this. But everything that's come up over the last 2 years. And I looked at her and I said, I can't afford not to do this.
Yeah.
This has been an emotional roller coaster that you cannot imagine. You can't even put words to. In reality, it comes down to some things very much like this. This note wrapped around a cookie from a family. If I may, I'll read this. Dear trucker, I admire your courage and your determination in doing this. I will support you in prayer for a victory over the sad oppression that is going on. Thank you for fighting for all of us. A mother of 3, God bless you. I have a box full of these letters. I have 4-year-old girls coming up, hugging me, and having me crayon notes. We love you. Thank you for fighting for our future freedoms. In a crayon note. I tell them, I am just like the Pony Express of the days gone by. And I will collect your tears, I will collect your messages, I will collect your heart, and I will take it with me to Washington, D.C., and I will deliver it. And that mission is partially complete for me personally. But I also tell them, the truckers are the tip of the spear, and the body of the spear is the people. We are nothing without the people, so this isn't about the truckers. We are awakening people all over this world. We are awakening, as Alan said, millions of people seeing their tears, hugs, to where I'm having to hold them from collapsing in song. This is a movement that the people have brought forth to say that God-given rights have been trampled on from our Constitution. And he's right. Our Constitution and 56 very fine gentlemen sat in a room in Philadelphia, and they pounded this out. They knew this day would come. This is why we have these writings. This is why we believe in these writings. And moving forward, we want to make sure that every single American, and you're right, Senator Cruz, these people are coming and they're waking up.
Yep.
And when they awaken, they will not go back to sleep. And we're bringing them forward. And we were bringing them with us. And I say to them, call every single official that you can, every politician that you can, and let's start burning up these phone lines and letting them know, let Nancy Pelosi know that the power is in the people and we are coming.
First of all, God bless you for doing that. I can see you're compelled, and all of your stories here are compelling. What's going through my mind, I wish the press would have been here to see the entire thing. I think we should bring them in right now. I think we should, Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Oh.
I drive a 1-ton truck, and apparently you cannot park it in downtown DC.
She's from your district.
I'm from West Texas, sir.
Awesome work.
Out in Midlands, I own a hotshot trucking company in the oil fields.
Fantastic.
So I came up here with, I'm keeping my guys working down there, and came up here and brought about 20 people from Texas from me.
Wonderful.
We tried to organize the state as best we could within 12 days. If you've never done grassroots, it's a wild ride.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be here, to be honest. So I pretty much said, I can do oil field 24/7, or I can do this. It's real hard to do both.
I understand.
So this is just, everybody's here for the same reason, for our freedoms, for our children's freedoms, for the generations to come, their freedoms too. And Texas is a wonderful state. I think it's harder for Texas because we stood up for our freedoms a lot sooner than a lot of other states. And I think it's just overpass of people. I think there's 15, a dozen overpasses that did not have people on it from Texas all the way to here. That we're the majority. We may be we're not silent anymore. We're not silent anymore. And people, you make eye contact with them, they're just like, thank you. Thank you for standing up for us. Thank you for being here for us. Thank you for watching over our children. They just say thank you. They're so grateful. And that's what we're all here for. We're here to do that, to stand for everybody's freedoms. Whatever side of the table you stand on, it's for your freedom too, whether we agree or disagree. It's okay. That's what makes this country beautiful. And that's what we stand for under that Constitution with each other.
This convoy has really shown the heart and soul of the United States and what we truly are about. And I really implore your colleagues to come down, you and your colleagues to all come down both sides of the aisle and meet with these drivers. There's so many stories like it, to meet with these people down there. Remember, it's not just truckers, it's people from all over America that are down there. They come from every jurisdiction. I know 30, 40, 50 of your own constituents that are in Hawaii. They flew into Hawaii.
Right as RVs.
It's hard to drive a truck from Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
I know you want to break precedent to, because it sometimes here, I want to just, we're to wrap it up, this really is a spiritual war, and we've awakened a lot of people across the country. We have a pandemic of unchecked power. That's what it is. And as soon as you put man's power above God's power, you know who wins. But we got a pendulum that's swinging from woke to the Great Awakening. And there's nobody who's seen that more firsthand than the truckers who drove across the country to see this. And we don't have our freedoms. We're here because Americans will not have freedoms as long as emergency powers exist and continue to be abused. That's why we're here. We need our freedom back. We need accountability. We need investigations. We appreciate any help you can offer.
Absolutely.
I sprang from the Tea Party movement in 2010, and I still don't belong here, quite honestly. But my rally cry,
It means you do belong here.
our rally cry back then was, this is a fight for freedom. It's not someone else's fight. This is our fight. It's a fight we have to win. It's going to be the embodiment of really what happened there. And all I can say is, what I sensed in 2010, the reason I stepped up to play that movement back then, this is way more powerful. It just is. And I think it's far less partisan.
Yeah.
Which is a good sign. So again, God bless all of you. I think your stories are unbelievably powerful. I didn't know really what to expect. I didn't expect the tears. I'm not surprised by it because I see it in Wisconsin all the time. But this is moving. I think we need the press in here. We've got to figure out how we can. This needs to be obviously the videotaping here. This needs to be documented. This needs to get out on the internet. This needs to be shared. I share with the media. So.
Okay, we're gonna bring them in and then we'll just shot questions with everyone, so you all don't want to answer. You have to.
All right, right now we're waiting for the press to come into the room. I'm not really sure what got accomplished by the meeting other than to be heard by people who already pretty much agree with our thoughts on the mandates. But this is the important part. I wonder how many of these people will actually air what the truckers are asking for. Because I've seen a lot of legacy media articles people commenting that, the mandates are already over. Just live your lives. What are they asking for? But that's not the case. As these truckers were pointing out, there are still a lot of state level laws on the books. There's still a lot of mandates at the federal level as well.
I want to thank the representatives of the People's. I want to thank the representatives of the People's Convoy for just doing what they're doing. I don't think either Ted and I understood what or knew what we expected out of this meeting. I know we made a mistake not having the press come in here from the first moment of this of these testimonies. They're powerful. These are people that are fighting for freedom. It's just that simple. We've already seen tears here. I didn't expect that. It doesn't surprise me at all. But these are powerful stories. So I want you to listen to their stories. I want you to hear why they have done this, why they have risked, in many cases, their career in this universal fight for freedom. That's what this is all about. It's very simple. It's very simple. So thank you. God bless all of you for what you're doing, trying to awaken America. Good.
Well, and let me say, the men and women gathered around this table, this is America. This is who we are as you have men and women of every race and creed who are standing up for freedom, standing up for a very basic and simple principle, that it ought to be your decision how to live your life. It ought to be your decision how to treat your body and what to do with your own health. And in crisis, character reveals itself. And in the age of COVID, we have seen too many petty tyrants who believe they have the power to make personal healthcare decisions for you, and even worse, to make healthcare decisions for your kids, your 5-year-old children at home. The federal government has no business telling parents they got to give a 5-year-old child a COVID vaccine. It ought to be your choice. If you choose to get the COVID vaccine, God bless you. That's your choice. You can make that choice. I'm glad that choice is available to you. But if you choose not to, that's your choice also. You know, 2 years ago when this pandemic started, we had lots of politicians giving speeches about heroes. You heard about the heroes. You heard about as everything was shut down. Let me say, shutting everything down was idiotic. But as everything was shut down, you had truck drivers that were the heroes moving the supply chain, making sure we had food, making sure we had the necessities we needed. You had cops and firefighters on front lines. You had nurses and doctors at the beginning of a pandemic risking their lives when we didn't understand what we were dealing with. What an amazing shift we've gone. 2 years later, there are politicians from local mayors all the way up to the President of the United States who are saying, fire the cops and firefighters. Fire the soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines who are defending our country. Fire the doctors and nurses who are on the front lines fighting COVID, and fire the truck drivers. Look, just a few weeks ago, the eyes of the world were on the Canadian truckers. That convoy to our neighbor up north was powerful, and they spoke out for freedom. The People's Convoy continues that legacy. And I got to tell you, there are a whole lot of politicians in this building that aren't listening. They're ignoring the people back home. And every elected official, from the local mayor and the county commissioner, all the way up to the President of the United States, it's time to listen, and it's time to defend people's freedom. And so I want to thank you for telling your stories. Your stories are powerful. And the politicians, the petty tyrants, they need to hear, and frankly, they need to leave you the hell alone.
Before you guys start, can you make sure that you state your names first so the press knows who you are?
So again, I would suggest you ask questions and direct them primarily to the representatives of the People's Convoy. Let them tell their stories. They should be heard.
So, Zach, with the daily piece. Quick question. So, during the meeting, did you guys discuss at all the plans moving forward in terms of potentially gumming up traffic in DC more, and the next steps in terms of what the escalations are, and also what the demands are from you guys, which haven't been specified? Thanks so much.
Well, we've made it pretty clear what our plans are. We're gonna keep looping the beltway until we're hurt. That hasn't changed anything. We've been doing it, day 3 now, doing that. We're currently riding two wide, occupying 2 lanes. I believe we're probably about 6-7 miles long. The first day we did it, we were 64 miles long because we occupied 1 lane. In that time, 2 other convoys have joined up with us. We're not going anywhere. We're not gonna leave. Stay put. We're gonna keep doing what we're doing until we start getting more meetings like we just had today. Our demands, if you want to say, have been pretty clear. End the state of emergency, end the vaccine mandates, and let's start holding both our elected and unelected officials accountable for their actions that led to this through bipartisan congressional hearings and investigations into the origins of the pandemic and the federal government's and state government's response to this pandemic.
So the demands are that you meet with, because out in Hagerstown, you guys had mentioned that you guys want to meet with every single lawmaker. Are those the demands for you guys to end, once you get all those meetings, then to go home?
No, of course that's not our demands. You can sit and talk all day you want and have dog and pony shows with all these different politicians. That doesn't get you anywhere. Action on the Senate, action on the floor, action at the state levels, action by our administration is how we get those things met. Having meetings doesn't solve.
They want their freedom back.
Yeah, they want government to leave them the hell alone. They want the mandates ended and the emergency ended. That's what they're demanding, and the meetings are how they get them.
Dr. Alexander, let me deal with it scientifically for him. This has been going on for 3 weeks peacefully. Your media must make sure they understand that. There's been no events. This is a peaceful, embracing, loving movement built on the backs of the Canadian trucker. Now, the science, there is no science in the world, none. And I want to say it clearly, that supports these vaccine mandates or any mandates. COVID is done. It is over. People want to go on with their lives. The trucker is waging the scientific battle. The doctors and academic scientists, the NIH, CDC, FDA have failed to wage for the American people. We should praise the trucker.
So can I ask you a follow-up on that? I spent 10 days up in covering the Canadian protests in Ottawa, where there are a lot of mandates still operational out there. Down here, we've seen this fall, we're in a 90% blue district. The mandates have just been lifted here. I've been walking around and sort of as a game asking people whether they even realize if we're in a state of emergency. Most people seem to have no idea because it doesn't seem to affect them. So I guess I'm wondering, like, aren't you guys winning? It seems like your side has already won. Like, what mandates are even left?
Well, there's vaccine mandates across the country in different sectors. We're losing qualified soldiers. By the way, the most well-trained and experienced soldiers in the world. We're losing them because they want to stand up for their freedom, which they just stood up for all of yours these years. They want to stand up for their freedom now, and they're being ejected from the military. You got healthcare workers that are some of the best, the absolute best in healthcare. They've spent their entire life becoming the best, and now they're losing their job because they agreed with the doctors. They agree that it's wrong to be forced in a vaccination. They agree that it's wrong. The mandates are starting to roll back. You're absolutely right. Massey started rolling back pretty much the moment we started kicking off from Adelanto, California. I chalked that up to a small win to the People's Convoy. You're welcome. We're going to continue doing this. We're going to continue going until the vaccine mandate, the state of emergency is lifted. Period. Brian Brazzi, organizer of the People's Convoy.
Brian, have you requested a meeting? Have you requested a meeting with the White House, and if so, what's the response?
We have openly said that we want to meet with anybody and everybody who will hear us. This is not a left issue. This is not a right issue. This is an American issue. We are by no means leaning to the right or to the left on this topic. This is a people's movement. This is for the people. In our convoy right now, there are Democrats, there are Republicans, there are independents, there are libertarians, there are constitutionalists. There are people that don't affiliate with either party in any way, shape, or form. They just believe in their God-given rights, and that's why they're a part of this. We would love the opportunity to speak to the administration personally. We would love the opportunity to speak with any member of the House and any member of the Senate. We would love that opportunity. Come hear the stories of these people. Come down to Hagerstown at night and speak to these drivers one-on-one. And by the way, it's not just the truck drivers. Maybe the truck drivers stood up. There's no doubt about it. But this is an American people convoy. This is the people's convoy. This convoy consists of RVs, motorhomes, cars, motorcycles. Shoot, a golf cart if it can keep up. Come on down. This is for everybody. This is for the American people.
Has to be a street legal golf
far
cart.
Left or far right. This is for you too. This is an American issue.
Mr. Brosnan, Kwame Mendoza with Daily Caller. So recently a bill came up in Congress that passed the Senate, I believe, that was looking for the removal of the emergency powers. Now, Joe Biden announced that if the bill would reach his desk, that he would veto it, and he called it the removal a reckless and costly mistake. So my question is, what would the convoy, which is all the convoys that I've spoken to, they all support that they want to end the mandates. And a lot of congressmen I've seen have been also like looking for that goal. So what are both the Congress and the convoys able to do to like help if Biden vetoes the bill that got proposed and ends up going through Congress?
Well, on our end, I'll let the professionals answer that one. But on our end, what I would say is if he vetoes, it just shows how out of touch he is with the American people.
Or the science.
Or the science.
And by the way, the hypocrisy was evident for the world to see. Ron and I were both on the floor of the House of Representatives last week. On the floor of the House, you had 535 members of Congress sitting there. There weren't 5 masks in the entire room. Now, a week earlier, they had decreed that you had to be tested and wear a mask, and a bunch of us weren't going to come if they were going to do that. They finally looked at the poll numbers and backed away from that. But these same tyrants that sit there, look, these Democratic politicians, when they're behind closed doors, and this was true a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, when they're behind closed doors, they take their masks off, they're laughing, they're yucking it up, and then they step out and they see these devices y'all are holding, cameras, and suddenly they go, oh crap, I gotta put a mask on. That's not science, that's theater. That is empty politics. And it's one thing if they want to wear masks. I've actually joked that I want to introduce a resolution saying Democrats in Congress are required to wear masks for the rest of their lives.
Joking, by the way.
I'm joking. That is a joke. That is a joke. But if they want to wear a mask themselves, they're welcome to do that. But what they're doing with these mandates, you know, a minute ago we got a question, what difference does it make? I'll tell you what difference it makes. It makes a difference to everyone who's lost their jobs over these mandates. It makes a difference for the truck drivers that are told they can't go to work. It makes a difference for the doctors and nurses that are being fired. Biggest hospital in New York fired 1,400 doctors and nurses. It makes a difference for the soldiers and sailors. I've looked in the eyes of Navy SEALs who spent over a decade fighting for our country, who are being fired because they're facing an illegal mandate. Every week, I fly back and forth to Houston. Almost without exception, every time I'm on an airplane, either the captain or a flight attendant will come up to me, will hug me and say, thank you for fighting for us. Because I'll tell you, United Airlines, sadly, Houston's a hub of them, has fired thousands of pilots and flight attendants. What difference does it make? We're in the District of Columbia right now. There are mandates affecting kids in D.C. This is wrong. It is wrong, and what should Congress do? We should vote on it. We should end the emergency. We voted 2 weeks ago on ending the mandates. I had an amendment to end the vaccine mandates for kids. We need to get that done because it's the right thing to do.
But let me tell you what's been a reckless and costly mistake. Our response to COVID. 960,000 Americans dead. Globally, 6 million. The human toll of the economic devastation of the shutdowns that didn't work. Yes. What we've done to our children. You know, we've ignored the science. We've actually listened to somebody who claims he was science. He's not. We've ignored the science. You know, I don't care where you sit on terms of masks, but I think the science is pretty clear that they don't work. I'll tell you where a mask, even a really well-fitting N95, change out 3 times a day where it wouldn't work. With our children. Have you ever seen children wear masks?
They don't.
It was obvious back in March of 2020 that masks were not going to work with children. And yet, look what we did to our kids for 2 years. It delayed their speech. They couldn't recognize their teacher. They couldn't see their classmates smile.
They're traumatized.
Oh, they are traumatized. They're afraid they're going to kill their grandparents.
Yeah.
We have traumatized our society. We have had our freedoms taken away from us. Our response has not been a success. It's been a miserable failure. But here's the problem. The people
Churches have been closed.
This response on us. The people who took away our freedoms, they'll never admit they were wrong. At this point, with the body count as high as it is, they can't afford to be proven wrong. And here's the problem. They have the power. They're the administration, the health agencies, the big pharma, the corporate legacy mainstream media, the big tech social media giants. They have the power to make it pretty darn difficult, if not impossible, to prove them wrong. And so what the People's Convoy is all about, the solution is bringing the truth to the American public. Because the truth is not getting to the American public. Those of us that have been trying to convey the truth, we've been vilified, we've been censored, we've been accused of spreading misinformation. I'm sorry, the misinformation has been spread by the COVID cartel. They're the ones that have censored the truth. They'll continue to censor the truth. And that is why I'm so appreciative of the People's Convoy. They're trying to let the American people understand what has happened to them.
You were making a comment about the impact on kids.
Yeah, they're traumatized. I have a nephew who's 12 years old. Fortunately, he's not as traumatized in Texas as the other kids are. I talk to kids all the time, these teenagers, as I've been traveling through the country, and they're like, our high school was stolen. Our lives in high school was stolen, 2 years gone. We don't get to go anywhere. And we can't get that back. Everybody's all-American is gone. And these children that are 2, 3 years old have been wearing masks for 2 years. They don't know facial expressions. I mean, speech therapy has gone up 300% from what I understand, from what I've studied. You know, it's critical. The formidable years are 2 to 5 years old, and they stole it from them. And now they're behind. And how are we going to catch these children up? You know, and I have children coming to me all the way through from Texas. Thank you. Thank you. We're so happy you're here. I have little notes from children. Thank you. Thank you for standing up for our freedom. My parents can't go, but thank you. And it just brings tears to your eyes. Every single overpass here, except a dozen maybe, from Texas to here. People everywhere. Thank you. Thank you for standing
Tell
up.
us about the impact. You're 18, and you shared with us a lot of those same sentiments.
But yeah, like she said, I have first-hand experience on what my life has been. I can tell you guys personally, especially as co-project I made it here, as a black man in the country. You know, it's not a white supremacist thing. It's not a whole KKK thing, or whatever you guys want to call it or put it out there. It's not about that.
No.
But as 18-year-old in America, California, should I say, Lord, that's another story. But on this topic, a lot of you guys in here graduated, right? You guys had graduations, and you guys had some fancy crash casts. I'm pretty sure you guys graduated. I didn't. I don't know what walking around out is. Prom, I don't know what that is. Homecoming, I don't know what that is. I gotta get a mail in diploma. Imagine. I only experienced freshman and my first semester of sophomore year, and that's it. Strict. I thought it was normal. I mean, I thought it was, well, it's a pandemic. I want to stay home to the safe. I haven't yet tested positive for COVID in my whole life, for whole teenage years. I'm about to start my college career pretty soon, and next week, I don't know. It's just nothing strict and stolen.
You pointed out, to this point about California specifically, a lot of the mandates that you guys are protesting that still exist are state level ones. Are you considering doing these kind of tactics to convoys and those kind of things in state capitals as well?
What comes up next is if we don't start gaining any traction on the federal grounds, then while still staying where we are, yeah, I believe a call to action will be necessary to push into the states and help the states pressure the federal government. I mean, right now, I'll say in front of all these cameras, those of you that support the People's Convoy but couldn't come out to us, start organizing in your states. Start right now, organizing in your states. Freedoms.
And Ron's got a powerful no ego.
Absolutely will. One of the moving things that we have moving across this country is the notes. And this one little, I can pull stacks of these notes. Stacks of these notes written by children with crayons. As you know, as I said, before I left Adelanto, a 4-year-old or so little girl just came up to me and hugged me and handed me a crayon note that was written in her hand. "We love you, truckers. Thank you for fighting for our futures." And I took on a very important thing. I rose my hand, I took an oath, like many in this convoy have. That oath had no expiration date. And I may not be serving in the active military today, but I am serving my country nonetheless until my dying breath. And that is why I am here. I am telling these people, I am the Pony Express today. And I'm taking your messages. I'm taking your tears, your hearts, your love, your I love yous, and every message and every word you give to me, I'm taking it with me, and I'm going to let them be heard. So let me say this one letter. Dear trucker, I admire your courage and your determination in doing this. I will support you and pray for you and pray for a victory over the sad oppression that is going on. Thank you for fighting for all of us. A mother of three, God bless you.
COVID is politically divisive as it's become. I mean, you just said you're never going to admit to wrong. So what does it take to get Democrats on board, do you think, and what is the message to them?
Look, I think what it takes is more and more American people standing up. The State of the Union was dealt with. As I said, a week before the State of the Union, Pelosi had put out an order that you couldn't come to the floor of the House without wearing a mask. And yet, you know, it's amazing. The thing that changed wasn't the science, it was the polling. I do think you're starting to see Democrats getting scared that their authoritarian abuse, people are fed up with it. People are tired of shutting down their businesses, shutting down their schools, abusing their freedom. And I think more and more people standing up and speaking out, like the truckers are doing right now. What's got to happen is elected officials have to be more afraid of the people than they are of the party bosses in Washington. Right now, that's not happening. But that needs to change, and I believe it is.
I would ask, why is the CDC, the NIH, the FDA been so non-transparent? Why have they not provided the American public with the information that we need to make tough choices? That there's nothing easy, from my standpoint, to, in terms of making the choice to get vaccinated or not vaccinated. That's a personal choice. It should be done with informed consent. But our health agencies have not given people the information. So what's it going to take? I think the truth. And I think as more and more truth actually starts leaking out and is coming in from all over the world, I think people will be awakened. And again, that's what the whole purpose of the People's Convoy is, to awaken the American public to what's happening. You know, Pierre, do you want to speak a little bit on this?
I mean, there's so few of us who get a public chance to speak out, but you know, when we look at these mandates, they're using science to convince people of these mandates and the need for these mandates. The science isn't there. It hasn't been there for a long time. We know the data. I mean, they've corrupted science. I mean, I'm a physician, and when I look at the practice of medicine, all across this country, we're infusing drugs that are extremely expensive and don't work, some of which are toxic. The dangers of these vaccines and the lack of efficacy of vaccines, you can see it around the world, but not in the U.S. You know, they're now on record, the New York Times. They have not shared data with us. We've seen the data. When you look at U.S. data, you look around the world where they're more transparent, they don't match up. This is all about supporting the global vaccination policy. They've sold tons of vaccines and lots of medicines that don't work. There's this endemic corruption in this whole response. When we talk about the failure, look how the U.S. has fared in the response to COVID. It's been a horrific failure. But a lot of people have made a lot of money. And I'm sorry to be a physician in society talking about corruption and money, but I've had to because I have a front row seat. I've been subjected to this. I've seen people die every single day. They land on ventilators because of ineffective and under-treatment. Their early treatment has been suppressed. You know how many people have died, how many families have been ruined? And then I have people coming to me because their families are in the hospitals and the doctors are doing really dumb stuff because they're using ineffective medicines and the people can see it. They keep dying. And they say, Doc, is there anything else you can do? I can't. Got to follow, which comes out of some building in Washington, D.C. They're not letting doctors doctor. And I can see that. I've had to leave medicine. I've had to leave the ICU because I am not going to stand there and watch people die when I can't practice medicine. I can't give them things to save their lives. I mean, this is too much. And I'm talking about science and medicine. My friends, my partners here in the Convoy, we talk about the lives, you know, that question, we removed mask mandates, and you're happy about that? Like everything's free now? I got my wife who's a doctor. She's going to lose her job if she doesn't get a booster. They're still boosting, they're still vaccinating for a disease that's mild with a 2-year-old vaccine that has nothing to do with Omicron. This is insanity. We have completely lost our minds. I treated a patient yesterday. She's a pharmacist working in a hospital. She told me that the hospitalists are vaccinating COVID patients as they're being discharged. We've lost our minds. And the reason why we have done that is because nothing but unending propaganda and censorship. I don't know which of you guys are censoring the real truth and the real data, but it's happening. And when you do that, when strange stuff happening. And I've had to sit there and I've had to watch the entire field of medicine doing really strange stuff, causing a lot of death.
And I wanted to echo something that Senator Cruz said, and that's why again we come back to the trucker, why we owe the U.S. trucker, the Canadian trucker so much praise. The COVID response was so catastrophic. I can talk from the administration's point of view. I can tell you, when we locked the children down and we closed schools, the general public, the cafe latte class, the Zoom class, those people who could have remote worked easily, they didn't understand that Johnny and Susie only got their eyes tested in school. They only got their ears tested in school. They didn't think that many children, millions of children in America, get their only meal in the school setting. Millions of American children went for months with no food. We had reports coming up from individual states, and President Trump knew. I knew I was there. That's when you saw him fighting on the podium and fighting Fauci and fighting Birx. He was fighting the CDC. What did we see? We had reports coming up from individual states with mothers and fathers presenting to individual emergency rooms with a limp child in their arm and telling the emergency doctor, listen, I've been a year with no income and he's beating me now and I am beating him. And sadly today, we beat the baby and we think we may have killed our child. How can you help us? That is what those lockdowns did. So when Senator Johnson says we catastrophically harm, these truckers deserve serious praise because they are opening the eyes of the American people. Never again we allow these governments the emergency powers that they talk.
And let me be clear right now, in case it hasn't been clear enough. The People's Convoy, the people of the convoy, we're not a truck driver. It's not I don't know whether the vaccine's good or bad. I just know that I deserve the choice to decide for myself. I know that there are professionals that can educate those to whether it's good or bad. I know that there are two sides to this. There are doctors that stand by it, and there's doctors that stand against it. The People's Convoy, we're not anti-vaxxers. We're just pro-choice.
So, senators, did you at all have any advice, encourage, or have conversations about the next step? Because I mean, they're kind of encircling DC now, quite feverishly, trying to occupy trying to occupy 2 lanes of traffic. Were there any conversations about what's next, the next steps?
You know, I'm going to respond this way. One of the things COVID has done is it has revealed truth. And the truth is revealed that there are a lot of politicians who are petty tyrants. There are a lot of big tech executives who are happy to censor and silence. And the corporate media is fundamentally corrupt. Let me ask you something. What the hell about these people is feverish? I haven't seen any fevers around here, but look.
They're encircling DC at a golfing race.
And I'm going to answer your idiotic question the following way. The media desperately wants to portray people exercising First Amendment rights and speaking out as feverish, as violent criminals. They're not violent.
I meant energetic. I mean, they're energetically trying to encircle DC.
That they're stopping and making sure they pick up the trash, they pick up their cigarette butts. There's nothing feverish about speaking out for freedom. And the corporate media doesn't want people to hear that. They want to paint these guys as a bunch of loons because they want to make decisions for their own lives and their own family. There is a fever in Washington, but it's a fever of authoritarian politicians trying to strip away people's rights.
And not to mention, every single day, the night before, we are already explaining what our convoy is going to do, where we are going to be, and how we are going to conduct ourselves. The night before, DC Metro knows we ain't coming down into DC. The night before, Maryland State Police know that what we're going to do. The night before, Virginia State Police know what we're going to do. They know what we're doing. We stick to our word. When we say that we're going to go around the Beltway, we go around the Beltway. We get on where we said we're going to get on. We get off where we said we're going to get off. We're probably the most peaceful protest to come down through Washington, D.C. area in a very long time.
Yeah.
Not to mention, we clean up after ourselves. We look out for each other. In fact, when one of our convoy members break down, we have volunteer mechanics within our convoy that are pulling off to help them get up, back up onto the road and get moving. We've hired / have volunteer pilot cars with signs that say convoy ahead or convoy follows. We're doing everything we can to limit the impact of the American people's commute to and from work. We're doing everything we can to respect our local communities. Everything we can do.
So did you guys discuss next steps?
Have a First Amendment right.
Let me answer.
Exercise where we stand and what we want. Feverish around the Beltway? You have no idea, man. You have no idea.
And that
Media who are vilifying and seeking to vilify.
I want him to go ahead and finish his statement.
No, to answer your question, what's the next step? They've been completely peaceful. They've been protesting as true Americans fighting for their freedom should. Very, reminds me of the Tea Party movement where you have Tea Party rallies and there's no garbage left over. I mean, they are being very respectful. There's no reason for us to give them advice. We're just here listening to them, hearing their stories, giving them a forum so you can ask them questions and they can tell you. There's no need for advice.
The Biden administration.
What is your message to members of the corporate media who are openly looking to vilify members of the trucker convoy and others who are standing against the vaccine mandates, who just want to make decisions about their own body? They're getting fired in the middle of an economy where everything is going up and getting more expensive. You got inflation going up, gas prices are skyrocketing. What's your message to the corporate media?
Well, that's like a really extensive message, so I'm going to try to shorten it. The corporate media, or mainstream, or whatever you want to title it, has basically refused to cover it unless they're trying to find a way to take it down. None of them have showed up on the ground in Hagerstown. None of them have been there to actually see the community that is developing, the peace, the love, the left side of the aisle, the right side of the aisle that are coming together. They have chosen to be negative. They have chosen to try to divide. It is them that have divided this country. They continue it. And the American people have had enough, and that shows by the millions of Americans that have stood along the highways and across the overpasses from Adelanto, California to Hagerstown, Maryland. They're out of touch with who the American people are, and many of the politicians that refuse to understand where we're coming from or don't want to meet with us, the corporations, the CEOs, the white collars that don't want to listen to their employees, they are out of touch.
And journalists.
They are out of touch with who Americans really are.
Exactly.
They're catering to these conglomerates. It is time to listen to the people. It is time that the government is reminded that they work for us.
Right.
And that it goes on a global scale, around the world. It's time that a new renaissance period is ushered in. A renaissance of freedom. I encourage every truck driver around the world right now, stand up.
That's it.
The people around the world, stand up. This isn't just an American issue. This is a global issue. This isn't a right issue or a left issue. This is an issue of the people. It's time that the people are heard. It's time that the people stand up. It's just time. I don't know how much more we can say about it, how much clearer we can make it. I don't care how long you've been in office. I don't care what your background is. I don't care if you're extreme left or extreme right. This is still for you. You should be a part of this. Take the hate away. You can go back to hating each other when it's all over and we get on the other side of this. But restore our freedoms.
And abide by this.
The Biden administration announced that it's going to be stopping oil imports from Russia. So that means the price of gas and diesel is going to skyrocket more than it ever has. So on a logistical level, is this going to start causing an expense, a problem for you guys as you're driving every day and people have to drive all the way back across the country?
It shouldn't. I'm from the oil fields. We have plenty of oil down there. We were independent. We did not have to buy oil from anybody years ago.
But it's not going to increase production here, but it's
Yeah.
behind the truckers.
That changed on day one of this administration.
Hey, can I ask you a question, please? Excuse me, I'm tired of this. I'm so Sir, quick question. You have a thing on it that says press. You know, this right here covers it, right? Our founding fathers. So you have the freedom to believe what you want to believe. Okay, I'm not questioning your job. No, listen to me. Please listen.
When does it end?
Listen. I'm not questioning your job, what you think, what you feel. But it boils my blood when the American people out there. I gave a lady my jacket the other day because she was standing outside in cold while she was locked out of her car. We're out there fighting for each other's lives every single day. You have the goddamn freedom to believe what you want to believe. The freedom of press, the freedom of religion. We're not questioning you. All I gotta just say is just give the American people a goddamn chance. Excuse my French to all the women in here. I'm so sorry, but that just I'm so sorry.
You keep saying what's next.
Yeah.
We are here until we end this menagerie of mandates and not laws. We are a country of, please let me finish. You spoke, I'm speaking. We are a country of laws, not mandates. Mandates are something that come in a smoke-filled room with your mafiosos sitting in there saying, this is what we are going to do. And when you guys wake up and deliver that message to the people and stop, that's the next steps.
So let me, we should wrap up soon, but let me give these guys a chance to, if either of y'all want to share anything. Go ahead.
It sounded pretty aggressive here.
Sorry.
As you can tell, this is
passion.
This is coming out of passion and love for our
passion.
country. This is coming out of the feelings that we felt rolling out of Adelanto all the way here. And there's convoys that came from other directions to join up with us as well. This is how passionate we feel about it. This is how it's affecting us individuals. This is how it's affecting our communities, our loved ones back home while we're on the road working. It's not an attack at you personally, sir.
No.
It's just that it has been an ongoing trend.
I was out
of
there,
the,
I get
it, and I understand, and we respect that you have a job to do. I think many of the people that have been embedded with us know exactly where I stand with the media and how I feel. I respect you as a human being. I respect you as an individual, and I respect that you have a job to do. But it's also your responsibility as the press to report fairly and accurately and to get the full picture and understand before you put it out. I'm not saying that you as an individual are doing that, but the media around the country have been sowing dissent and divide on all topics, on all issues for many, many years now. And it's time that we get back to reality.
Yes.
And as though some people might have started directing at you.
Sorry.
There is no disrespect meant towards you as an individual.
When does it end? I think this is a good time to wrap it up here. I think you heard the passion here. I think you heard what they're fighting for, and it's very simple. They're fighting for freedom, and they're going to continue to fight because a lot of them have served this country, as millions have. We're fighting for freedom. That's what this is all about. So thank you for attending. God bless all of you for your opportunity.
You and everyone else here, what were you really hoping would come out of today, and do you feel like you've accomplished it?
I got what I was hoping for. I got 2 respectable members of the Senate here, and I got all the media to come in this room and start covering. That's a win for me. That's a win for the People's Convoy. Later today, we have more meetings, and tomorrow's a new day, and the convoy's going to keep rolling around that beltway until we achieve what our goals are.
Thank you for
Thank you all.
So there you have it. I don't know how long YouTube's going to allow this to stay up. I will be posting it on Rumble and Locals as well, because I think it's important to see the whole view. And if this is covered at all on legacy media, I have a feeling it will be just little snippets here and there. You could tell by the questions what side of the aisle these reporters, I say politicians, but what side of the aisle these reporters were on. That's not what our journalists are supposed to be. Our journalists are supposed to be, show the whole story and not prejudge the story before they even know what's going on. So how many of them have been in this convoy since Adelanto? I don't think any. The people that I've been following, anywhere from, they were just, YouTubers. I think the biggest one I was following was Sasnak, who originally came from Kansas. That's where Sasnak comes from. And he had, I think, maybe 20,000 to begin with. Over the course of this convoy, because he's been live streaming every day, he's gotten up over 100,000 viewers. But you can see every day hours of video, and he is definitely giving you the big story. Then there are other smaller YouTubers. There's Oreo. What else? There's First Responders Media. That are covering this with live streams as well. But I'm not aware of any corporate media, NBC, ABC, Fox News affiliates that are in there with the convoy every day on a day-to-day basis. Anyhow, I'm going to let you all go. I really appreciate you watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. And follow me on Locals and Rumble as well. Just look for Sweet Home California, because I have heard that there are channels. The original channel that that showed this, the What You See Is What You Get TV, his channel is still up, but he has taken all his videos down. So I have a feeling that he's been getting some strikes on some of the things that he has been posting. And he's another one of the people that had been with the convoy since the beginning. So we'll have to find him somewhere else. So look for him on Rumble. I know he has some things on Facebook. And anyhow, God bless. They can't silence us all, especially if we just diversify where we're putting things out. But make sure you are following people so you can find out what's going on. God bless. Thanks for joining me. I will talk to you next time. Bye.